Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. More than 300 specialists from the GCC countries discuss in Salalah the ENT complications with children. The Ministry of Civil Service conducts written tests and personal interviews for vacancies in Governorate of South Sharqiya. And the French president pledges humanitarian aid and military support for Iraq's fight against Daesh state insurgents. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. With the participation of 300 specialist 7th Gulf Cooperation Council countries, ORL Head and Neck Society Symposium started in Salalah. The symposium discussed a number of problems relating to the vital organs in the children. His Excellency Dr. Ali bin Talib Al-Hinai, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Health for Planning Affairs, presided over the opening ceremony. The three-day symposium also will discuss hearing problems with children, exchanging experiences among the participants and focusing on treatment of swallowing problems with children after head cancer surgery. During the symposium, 54 specialized work papers will be presented from the Sultanate, GCC, UK, Canada, Germany, Turkey, Egypt and India. The Ministry of Civil Service conducted written tests and personal interviews for vacancies announced for the Governorate of South Sharqiya at Sur College for Applied Sciences. More than 570 male and female citizens competed for 60 vacancies. Applicants underwent rules and procedures of central employment followed by the Ministry at electronic way. Tests and interviews for job seekers, which included 1,523 vacancies according to vacancies announced the 25th of last June, will continue till the last week of September based on time plan set for it. French President François Hollande held closed-door talks with Iraqi leaders today on humanitarian aid and military support for Iraq's fight against Daesh state insurgents. Hollande held meetings with President Fouad Massoum, Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi and Parliament Speaker Salim al-Jabouri. At a press conference with Iraq's President, Hollande said that Daesh group is waging a war on all those who did not agree or see things the same way they do. Hollande did not address how France would contribute to the airstrikes targeting Daesh positions in Iraq, now being conducted by the US Air Force and Iraqi military. As part of efforts to broaden support, Hollande hosts talks in Paris on Monday where regional and international powers will seek to coordinate support for Iraq in a battle against Daesh militants who seize northern parts of the country. Australia today raised its terror threat high level for the first ever time, citing the likelihood of terrorist attacks by Australian citizens radicalized in Iraq or Syria, despite stressing there was no knowledge of a specific attack plan. Prime Minister Tony Abbott had this to say in a news conference in Melbourne.
The Director General of Security, ASIO head David Irvine, raised the terror threat to high. Consequently, today the government is raising the public alert level to high. I want to stress that this does not mean that a terror attack is imminent. We have no specific intelligence of particular plots. There are people with the intent and the capability to mount attacks here in Australia. Our security agencies have raised the threat level based on an accumulation of indicators.
The Syrian army said today it had taken control of a town northwest of Hama, where the Nusra Front had been massing forces, dealing a blow to the Al-Qaeda-linked group that has been trying to open new fronts after losing ground to Daesh. The army also said it had security nearby areas close to Hama military airport, driving back an offensive by insurgents who at once had threatened several government loyalist towns. Dozens of combatants on both sides had been killed in the weeks since government forces and allied fighters launched their counter-offensive in the area. Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko said today there could be no military solution to his country's crisis and said he hoped a very fragile ceasefire in the east would hold, allowing him to focus on rebuilding the shattered economy. Petro Poroshenko also said a new wave of European Union sanctions against Russia underlined Western solidarity with Kyiv and that the Ukrainian and European Union parliaments could both ratify a deal on close economic and political ties on September 16th. European Union governments agreed that new economic sanctions on Russia will take effect today, but held out the prospect of cancelling some of all of them next month if they believe a peace plan is working. European Union ambassadors agreed in principle to the new sanctions, but implementation was held up by a dispute over whether they should take effect now or whether the European Union should give more time for a ceasefire in Ukraine to take hold. Stay tuned, because still to come in our news bulletin, the Pantanal is Brazil's wildlife paradise. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. In terms of maintaining the tourist sites and from the youth keenness to do their social role to serve all sectors, a group of voluntary youths organized a youth camp to clean the touristic site in a Saheli village in the Wilayah of Al-Mudaibi in cooperation with Al-Mudaibi municipality to enhance comprehensive system of voluntary work. The voluntary team gathered to achieve the aim of having natural touristic site. The activities of the third edition of Shabibi or Youth Program concluded in the Governorate of Dhahira. The program was organized by the Ministry of Sports Affairs within 4 programs implemented during summer season. The activities varied among social, cultural, sports and scientific trips. The program contributed in benefiting from youth free time during summer with what reflected them and to the society positively, namely working as one team and equip them with skills and experiences in a number of different programs. Al Roya newspaper, in cooperation with Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Governorate of Musandam, organized an introductory program on Al Roya Award for Youth Initiatives in its second edition in Golden Tulip Resort in the Wilayah of Daba. During the program, the competition items, its field and its terms were discussed, as well as the most important activities accompanied with the competition. 8 fields were determined to compete on science, culture, literary, media, social, sports and SMEs. The program concluded with training session which discussed how to invest youth energy to establish their projects. Brazil's Pantanal might not be as well known as the Amazon rainforest, but an increasing number of ecotourists are finding that it is vast wetlands and stunning biodiversity offer just as many opportunities to spot rich wildlife. Here is a report.
The Pantanal, in the Brazilian state of Mato Grosso bordering Paraguay and Bolivia, is the world's largest tropical wetland, twice the size of Portugal. German tourist Manfred Valuga traveled more than 10,000 kilometers to get to this remote area on the Paraguay River, famous for its wildlife.
We've seen here the last 2 days is very impressive. We've seen capybaras and we've seen the jaguar for a short while, and we've seen lots of crocodiles and thousands of birds.
Brazil hosts the world's greatest number of endemic species, many of them endangered. The most famous of them all, the jaguar, can be found in this area of the Pantanal, a particularly good place to see the feline that comes out of the forest to cool down on the riverbanks and hunt for capybaras. Back in 2005, ecologist Douglas Trent launched an environmental and educational project in the Pantanal to list and count up various endangered species. So far, he's seen 51 jaguars. Good news for this solitary animal who needs vast untouched territories to breed.
Jaguars need water, jaguars need forest, jaguars need food. This is tropical, it doesn't get too cold for them. They do quite well here.
It is estimated that there are around 50,000 jaguars left in the wild. Thousands of them were killed before 1979 when it was still legal to hunt them. Today, the increasing number of jaguars in the Pantanal attracts tourists from all over the world and generates money for locals who get involved in ecotourism. But not everyone is happy about it. Some locals say jaguars now have more rights than man, while others have had bloody encounters. There were 4 jaguar attacks on humans in this region since 2007, one of them deadly.
I
took off my hat and screamed at the jaguar. It stood up. I hit it with my hat and then screamed, but it hit me with its head here. It then dragged me with my arm in its mouth. Things got bad. It bit me here with all its strength. But then the dog came from behind, jumped at the jaguar and bit it. It then let go of me.
Fishing is also one of the region's main attractions, particularly in the dry season when the area isn't flooded. Most of the forest is protected, and conservation of the river is also on the agenda.
Cáceres was the first region to create a municipal law which keeps the amount of fish one can take out of the water to 5 kilograms. And it forbade dorado fishing.
With more than 85% of its vegetation untouched, the Pantanal is one of the world's top wildlife sanctuaries. And it will have to remain that way if the jaguar and other endangered species are to survive.
Now for the general weather forecast, cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and nearby mountains with chances of intermittent drizzle. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with chances of scattered rain over the Hajar Mountains and the nearby areas. Winds will be southerly to southwesterly moderate to active along the southeastern coast, while it will be southeasterly light to moderate over the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the southeastern coast will be rough with a maximum wave height of 3.5 meters, and along the rest of the coast it will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. More than 300 specialists from the GCC countries discuss in Salalah the ENT complications with children. The Ministry of Civil Service conducts written tests and personal interviews for vacancies in Governorate of South Sharqiya. And the French President pledges humanitarian aid and military support for Iraq's fight against the state insurgents. Dear viewers, please visit our official website www.part.gov.om for receiving our English news bulletin. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studio, thank you for watching and good night.